right, well, now that we have imparted that information, let's get to the last segment of the program, otherwise known as the Smackdown Review as the Bloodline Turns. When last we left the citizens of Crabwell Falls, Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso were on the outs. This whole program, we're basically going to talk about what the Bloodline did and then mention matches in between because they didn't take long and they weren't that interesting. But they've got this thing again where people are now trying to figure out, as we are too, because to be honest, if you put this all together and probably watched a compilation of it every week, there's probably many loopholes you'd see, but they've spread it out enough that we can't really keep track of who the fuck's on whose side, right? It's a who done it or who will do it. And they recapped the last, the Bloodline blow up at the 1,000-day celebration, and then opened up with Paul and Solo in the ring. But before Paul could even finish introducing himself, I'm sure there's several people in the audience still have questions over what his name is. Immediately, Jey comes out by himself. Boom. And Jey starts giving Solo a raft of shit for turning on their brother and tells Paul Lee to say, tell it, whatever you got to say to me, say it. And Paul's first word, you got this all wrong. Paul is so entertainingly slimy, is he not?
In real life or on TV?
Well, no, I don't know how entertaining it is in real life, but on TV, he's just entertainingly slimy. He's the con man, just wonderfully smarmy when he's trying to, sell you the used car, right? It's all Jimmy's fault because Jimmy made up his mind for you too. And he moves Solo back and he speaks to Jey intimately. And that Jimmy's always done his own thing and he's resented you because Jimmy knows that Roman wants to make you the next tribal chief. It was never going to be Jimmy. He was the older brother, but it's never going to be Jimmy. It's all going to be about you. And to prove that, tonight, I've got you a match where you're going to face Austin Theory for the U.S. title to bring blood to the gold mine. That's what they're...
The gold mine.
They're going to bring gold to the bloodline. But wouldn't that be good? On AEW, they could bring blood to the gold mine.
Or mud to the bloodline. Well, one or the other.
They can bring something. But anyway, basically, the story is that if Jey wins the U.S. title, then Roman Reigns will, and this was a quote, publicly groom him. I guess he's going to wash his ass like they do in the, Japanese young boys, maybe comb his hair, trim it, style his beard. He's going to publicly groom him to become the next tribal chief. But he needs the answer now. And Jay's thinking, man. And Paul, he says, I'll take you up on that U.S. title match. And Paul offers his hand. And the fans start screaming, don't shake it, don't shake it. So Jey looks at him and milks it and says, I'll get back to you on that handshake. And he walks off, and Paul stays like, he's pissed now. Oh, boy. Left him hanging. So that was the first segment. And now we know that there's something to stay tuned for. Something's going to happen. So and as long as they're going to tease it, which they are, they pretty much decided on this program, that was all we needed. And they may have been right, because as the fast nationals, as they say, they were up against the big NBA game and still did an average of 2.4 something million viewers. After that was the Money in the Bank qualifier with Muhammad Ali and Pablo Escobar. Did you watch any of that? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't let you say anything about the promo.
Yeah, I'll talk about that match in a second. I just want to say, I don't have anything to add to the promo, but we're talking about the ratings. I guess the other big story, and maybe we can address it further when we have some numbers, maybe on the Drive-Thru or next week. The shows are all drawing. Like, they're selling out buildings. It's a hot thing to be there for. I don't know if they've had anything like that in a long time, especially if it's not really match-based, and it's not, where people just want to be there to be a part of this because this is happening.
I agree. But at those prices, if you got to pay the equivalent of a monthly rent on an apartment to go to a wrestling show, you might as well go to the ones doing all the big ratings, has all the big stars, right?
And you want to be able to say, I was there the night that Jey Uso did this to Jimmy Uso, or this person did this to Roman Reigns. It's not about, I saw this match. It's, I saw Sammy crack up Jey Uso.
I want to be there to see Roman groom Jey.
I don't want to be around that. Why do you want to see that?
Well, maybe they'll use Manscaped. Anyway, so see, we're going to get those.
What a beautiful way to incorporate the sponsor into the show.
I wish they were scheduled for this program, but still remember them in your hearts, folks. We'll have an update on them probably by next week. But anyway, so the Money in the Bank qualifier was Muhammad Ali and Pablo Escobar, and they had LA Knight doing color, and they did lots of flips and dives. You have anything to add to that?
I thought it was a good match, actually. I watched it, maybe because I wanted to hear LA Knight on commentary, but then I actually liked the match. Both guys are baby faces, I think. So it was an interesting thing. The one thing that stood out, though, it's stupid to do it, but then you saw it happen, you're like, ooh. Escobar hits Mustafa Ali with a Hurricane Rana when Ali's standing on the stairs. But when Escobar goes down, it sounds like he slammed his head into the fucking stairs. Because think about it, if you're Hurricane Rana-ing someone and they're standing there, your head's going to hit. And it did. And Ray came right over to him afterwards, I think, to check on him. But they showed the replay. You don't actually see it, but you hear it and you see where his head would have hit. That was my big takeaway. But it was a good match, actually.
Well, I'm sure it was a good match between two people at, what's fuck, and the Money in the Bank. There's going to be 6 people in a fucking ladder match twice on the show, men and women. Blah. So then we get back to the good stuff. As the bloodline turns, Sammy was in the back with Jey. And Sammy's telling Jey the bloodline was some of the best times of his life and, all the things they did. And Jey's kind of smiling, thinking back fondly in better days, And then Sammy's Roman is the issue. He's a manipulator. He does all these things that he does. And Sammy hopes that Jey wins the U.S. title. But he tries to remind him that Jimmy is his brother. And, and he needs to think and look deep within himself and blah, blah, blah. So now Jey's all fucked up. Yeah, right?
How many times have these two specifically met in the alleyway or the hallway or whatever and had these conversations where you're like, well, they can't do that again. They really hate each other. And then they're back to this with, it's like he's Jey Uso's Jiminy Cricket. I can't explain this relationship. Like, no matter what they've been through, he's still like, let me tell you, family first. Like, whatever the fuck he's telling to him here, or saying to him here in English. It's fine for what it is, but I'm getting sick of these.
And also, again, this has completely become a dramatic television program rather than a sporting event or a wrestling show because the camera is sitting there right in front of them while they're having the intimate personal conversation. But again, I'm locked in that closet. I need me a sandwich. They're going to throw me a sandwich with this thing. Something's going on. It's preposterifying, but something. And then Alba Fire and Isla Dawn were interrupted by Ronda and Shayna, but...
Please say you watch this.
No. I noticed that Ronda was once dressed up and had her hair done and didn't look like she just changed her own oil over at Browsy Acres. Otherwise, what happened?
No, Ronda looked good. Ronda and Shayna came in there and basically said they want to take the other belts also. And this is my first time really seeing Isla and who's the other one? Melba, and Toast.
Melba and Toast. There we go. Let me just make that change now. Melba and Toast.
It was my first time seeing them. And I don't know if they've always been this hammy and awful when on the mic, but this was pretty cringy. This was not good, I don't think.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, they got in a fight and they beat up Ronda and Shayna. Ronda Rousey, former UFC champion, baddest woman on the planet, and Shayna Baszler with an MMA background, not too bad herself, and these two Muppets from NXT. All right, they did a nice tribute package to the Iron Sheik. That was nice and classy. Then we came to the Money in the Bank qualifier between Bayley and Mia Yim. For whatever purpose AJ Styles on color, well, we'll find out the purpose, because Bayley beats Mia Yim in 2 minutes. Scarlett comes to the desk, blows glittery powder in AJ's eyes, and Kross comes from behind in the crowd and puts him in a sleeper.
Best use of Kross yet. Whatever you want to say. I mean, it wasn't great, but they didn't beat him. And he came out there and he beat someone who's been presented in the mix of being a top guy. He was just in the championship title match. I sound like Excalibur. In the championship match. And you know what? They looked like heels. They did something to AJ. AJ got nothing back on him. It was kind of a cool visual of Kross carrying Scarlett away while she's, loving it. Not bad. Let's see where they go with it. Kross versus AJ.
What I loved was Scarlett comes up at ringside and appears in front of the desk. So AJ gets up and, his attention is on her, but the camera shot, you see Kross, because he's a big fucking tattooed guy and he's got no goddamn shirt on. He's walking through the crowd, right, to come up from behind AJ. You got him in the shot, so you see him coming. And I'm just thinking, he's walking purposely and he's coming right through the people. I have seen in the past Hacksaw Butch Reed, Troy Graham, the Dream Machine, Hercules Hernandez, one of the most goddamn jacked up fucking badass looking people. He looked like a goddamn in-shape Bruiser Brody. And several other people run to the ring as fast as they can to attack a babyface and still get tackled by some fucking schlub in the crowd and have the hell of a goddamn fight you've ever seen. And this guy that everybody can see from 500 yards is just walking purposely through the crowd to do this damage. And they're like, oh, he's going to go kill AJ. They don't give a shit. So after that bit of business, we go to the back where Bianca is complaining to Pierce about Oscar. And I'm thinking at this point, is this SmackDown or Women of Wrestling? Because this is predominantly female program here. Well, Pierce goes to the ring and brings out Oscar. She's recently... Now, here's the thing. She's on SmackDown, but she was the Raw Women's Champion. Help me out with this. So Oscar gives Pierce the old Raw Women's belt, and he gives her a new belt, which he calls the new women's title belt, not Raw or SmackDown, but just women's title. It looks the same, except that it's gold, not red, like the one they just gave Roman Reigns. So now Oscar has a belt that looks, or not Roman, but the other champion, Seth Franklin. So what the fuck is going on here? Is there a SmackDown Women's Champion? Is it she turned in the Raw Women's belt, so she's just the Women's Champion?
What about Rhea Ripley?
What about Rhea Ripley? She was supposed to be the SmackDown Women's Champion, right? But she's now on Raw.
She's on Raw. Is she the SmackDown champion?
Got? Well, I don't fucking know. That's what I'm asking you. Now, strange as it may seem, they give these baseball players weird names these days. You got who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third.
Well, I know who's in Gorilla.
Bill's on Gorilla.
Yeah.
All right, so anyway.
Call me Bill.
Suddenly, Bill Moxley, Charlotte's music plays, and she makes a surprise entrance. And Pierce says that Charlotte needs to get in line for a shot at the title, and she says she made the line. And meanwhile, she's standing there, and she's wearing, I don't know what kind of fucking heels, how big they might have been. She's a tall girl anyway. So now she's got these stilts on, and Oscar looks like because she ain't a tall girl, but now there's a 1.5 foot height difference. And Oscar is wearing this new belt that's as big as her entire upper body. It goes from mid-cleavage to fucking upper fupa. And And then Charlotte challenges Oscar, and Oscar screams and gargles yes in the way that she does these things. And then she goes for the mist, but Charlotte ducks it and kicks her, and she rolls out on the floor. And that's what happened there.
The replay of that looked really great, where she went for the mist and Charlotte ducked out.
It was a good mist replay. I'll give it that. What's going on here?
I don't exactly know. I mean, here's Charlotte reappearing, still as a babyface, got a nice reaction. Nothing against Charlotte, but all the Bianca stuff is still up in the air with Asuka.
Think they're going to switch Bianca heel because she's not happy?
It's something that I would think about doing, maybe. But the other issue is, like you said, I didn't know if it was just me and I missed an explanation. I couldn't understand why they were giving her the new belt or what it signified.
That's what I'm saying. She turns in the Raw belt on SmackDown because she's apparently on SmackDown now. So they give her a new belt, but they don't call it the SmackDown's title, the SmackDown women's title. They call it the women's title. We're probably giving this too much time.
Are they going to give Rhea a new belt? Is this their way of just saying...
everybody gets a belt.
No, but is this their way of saying, like, we put the wrong people on the wrong show, so we're just going to take the name of the show off the belt and give you a new belt?
I don't know. Maybe Rhea could be the Universal Women's Champion. I'm rubbing my face. Let's move on. So in the back, Paul and Jay. And Paul is like, he's all smiles. Hey, leaving me hanging on the handshake. That was good TV. But I need your passport and I need your measurements. You're going to be flying to Money in the Bank with Roman next week on the private jet. And Roman's going to be here not next week, but at Money in the Bank. But next week, Roman's going to be here for the celebration of you winning the United States title from Theory tonight. And he's going to make the public announcement that you're going to be the next tribal chief. And Jay is happy about that. But he's not sure why Paul's happy about it, because he tells Paul if he's in the bloodline, meaning himself, Jay, then Paul is out of the bloodline. And then Paul's got the look on his face, and Jay walks off smiling. So I didn't see that one coming, because now it's you or me, oh wise man. Of course, again, this is the most untrustworthy bunch of people. They're all willing to turn on each other. But goddamn, they're keeping us guessing. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I like it all, but I want it all to get somewhere already.
Well, they don't want us to get anywhere while they're doing these ratings. And by the way, as we predicted in the back, Bianca was mad at Pierce that Charlotte gets a match with Oscar. And then Butch beat Baron Von Corbin in 2 minutes in a Money in the Bank qualifying match. And then Corbin got in a fight and got beat up by Carmelo Hayes and his friend Trick,
who apparently he's feuding with on NXT. And then a minute later, he got beat up by Cameron Grimes, who I forgot he was feuding with on this show. How many people is he feuding with?
Well, it's just everybody gets to beat up Baron Von Corbin. There's not really any point to any of it. And yes, he did get then laid out when he complained about the way he was treated by the other two. Fucking Cameron Grimes came out and whacked him and knocked him out too. And then Io Sky beat Shotzi in a Money in the Bank qualifying match in 2 minutes. And that's not 2 minutes to break, that's just 2 minutes. And then back to the reason why we're all here. Owens and Sammy are in the back. And we think, okay, this is going to be some bloodline business, right? But no, they are confronted by Pretty Deadly. And now I've heard them talk. And that's enough for me. Because they sound as ridiculous as they look. But suddenly, here comes the Brawling Brutes. And here comes Gallows and Anderson. And here comes the LWO. And here comes the Street Sweepers within seconds of each other, walking into the frame and standing in a very unnatural V so that the camera can, because it's a fucking one camera shoot in the locker room, can get them all in. And they all want tag team title shots. And Owens starts screaming at the top of his lungs, "What's going on? They're too close to me. And so now is he just is this he's supposed to be capable of losing his mind and his temper at any point and just going off? Is that his new gimmick?
It seems like it. I hate these kind of segments. Everyone just walks in the room. No one has seen anyone getting ready to walk into the room. They're all just there doing their little
Yeah, you don't even hear a
shtick.
door slam.
No.
They just suddenly, well, they were standing right there. Why didn't you raise this issue before we started talking on television? Anyway, so Pierce makes a gauntlet match for next week, and everybody randomly starts screaming, loud noises. And that was that. Please, they did a package on Grayson Waller. I wish they'd wrap him up in a package and send him back wherever he came from, get him a new name and a different haircut, and maybe let him age 5 years. And then we come to the main event of the evening. Brian, were y'all set and ready for this? Our boy Theory, Jey Uso. Who's going to be in the Bloodline? Is it going to be Paul? Is it going to be Jey? Who's going to be the next tribal chief? What's going on? They've got the table set. The U.S. title on the line. They ring the bell. What'd you think, Brian?
I hate to say it because I like Theory and I like Jey Uso, but I didn't give a shit about the match. I was just waiting for whatever drama was going to play out, and based on what time it was when this aired, I knew there was still time for drama.
Yes. And it was very dramatic. By the way, they started this match that we built up to all night, and they, honest to God, went a minute or less until Theory got knocked over the announcer's desk, and they went to break.
Right to commercial, as soon as the thing got going.
And what the fuck? About 3 minutes later, 3.5 minutes, whatever, I'm like, okay, that killed some of my momentum. They come back, they have a big yay boo exchange. Jey wins it, gets a big pop. Theory starts the heat. Jey fights back. Super kicks Theory into the referee, and the referee goes down. And apparently not only goes down, but falls into the fucking pit at ringside that Shelton Benjamin fell into last week, because he was gone for about the next 3 minutes. And Jey hits a splash off the top, and he's got Theory covered for more than a 3 count, but there's no referee. And then here comes Pretty Deadly. Why do they have to be involved in this? They come out and nail Jey, and then just get in the ring like they've got all the time in the world. But here comes Jimmy Uso, and he shit cans Pretty Deadly. But here comes Solo, and nails Jimmy. Now, I'm not sure why Solo nailed Jimmy. Because
Jimmy's out.
Well, but Jimmy's helping. Jimmy is helping Jey, who is still technically in. So if Jimmy's helping Jey, wouldn't that mean that Jimmy is trying to get back in instead of spiking him? Wouldn't we ask him first? I don't know.
Unless Solo has a terminate on sight order from Roman Reigns.
Well, there you go. And Paul was there. So anyway, Solo nails Jimmy and goes to give him the spike. But Jey stops him. No, you can't do that to my brother. And then Jimmy goes to fight back against Solo by going to super kick him, but Solo moves and Jimmy super kicks Jey. And then Jimmy grabs Solo and shit cans him. Eventually, he got hung a little bit and does a dive over the top rope on him. But in the ring, Theory has come back and covered Jey, and the referee is suddenly alive. 1, 2, 3. So Jey has lost his U.S. title opportunity, and it's Jimmy's fault. So now the fallout is Solo and Paulie are in the aisle watching Jimmy try to explain to Jey that it was a mistake, and Jey walks out on Jimmy, but when he passes Paul and Solo, Paul said, I'm sorry, and Jey walks out on them too, but then Paulie smiles and tells his phone to call Roman Reigns. Dun, 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 dun.
What is Roman doing on Friday nights if he's not even watching the show?
He's holding on to his phone to wait for Paul to call him.
Why doesn't he just watch the show? He won't have to wait for the call.
Because he wants to hear from Paul what really happened, rather than just what he's seeing with his own 2 eyes on national television. But we've got to get the organ music. Brian, I know we have no budget for this program, But we got to get the old soap opera radio program organ music to go to these dramatic breaks. Will Jay reunite with Jimmy? What will Paul say to Solo? Will Roman get involved? Tune in next week on As the Bloodline Turns. But that was the wrestling program, folks.